And welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your host, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Good morning, Daniel.
How's it going?
Good. So viewers might already hear that I'm a bit, not congested, but
It's just your normal nasally.
I'm normally nasally, I'll give you that, but I'm a little more gritty than normal today. Too much rocking out with, System of a Down or something.
Oh, I do have to tell you something big, though,
Oh.
once we get ready to get after our whole intro.
Did System of a Down remind you of that?
Something of that nature, yeah.
Huh. Well, okay. Color me intrigued. That was random.
No, the big thing is just that, I'm going to be leaving, going to Cleveland to visit my wife while she's up there for training.
Sure do.
So there's two things I'm excited about I'm going to do while we're up there. We're going to go see
you're
Guardians.
going to see Drew Carey's house, right?
No. We're going to go see the Cleveland Guardians play the Toronto Blue Jays. That we already got our tickets.
Good.
Pretty good seats, too. Right off the third base line, fifth row.
Nice. Catch a foul ball for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try. But on another note,
that has to be Cubs level to get a foul ball that bad.
On another note, I'm going to be visiting the city, so I've looked into some board game stuff that I might go check out.
I saw your post about that.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And I finally decided one of the days I'm going to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Ooh. Okay. I don't think System of a Down is in that, but
no, but it made rock and roll.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Lately I've been really going down the rabbit hole of watching vocal coaches react to System of a Down.
I've seen that. Yeah, one of my favorite ones is
those are pretty entertaining.
When they were reacting to Tool, their live of Sober.
Yeah, it was all hunched over.
They're like, how is he projecting like that?
Yeah, it's such a rabbit hole, and it's something hilarious.
Yeah.
But you can tell, there was this one person who I saw that was specifically reacting to it, and she was looking, she was giving what seemed like pretty surprising reactions. She's like, hold on, I need to rewind it, and she goes right back and starts doing the exact same reactions. No, okay, the second time, fool me once.
She could have been generally shocked that he was projecting the way he was.
No, you could tell, there was one point where she was, listening to it, she was surprising. Oh. But my favorite one was, the System of a Down, I think it was Toxicity, being reviewed by a classical style composer.
Oh, okay.
And that was, he was listening to that for the first time, and during parts of it, he was like, all right, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. And he was like, all right, that's in C minor, A minor. Wow, that's a distortion right there. That's good. Are you saying a Mixolydian or something?
Yeah.
He's you can tell, he was really intrigued. That was way more interesting than just vocal. I mean, as someone who sang for 8 years, in choir,
yeah,
there's a lot more that goes into it than you'd think. But there's something about a classical composer reacting to it that's just that's next level entertainment.
I get that. Yeah, I'm just excited because I get to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's a lot of bands in there that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that I enjoy, like the Beatles and several others. Who just recently got in, Megadeth. I think Metallica's in there too.
Oh yeah.
Their one rule is that you just had to release an album, and 25 years later you can get elected into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I want to go see it. I was looking at it, it's 5 different levels. There's a little area where you could do a garage band thing. I'm like, good. I'm gonna go just check the exhibits and stuff like that. I was excited about that.
Oh, I would love to go see.
Also planning on maybe if I have time to go see the Christmas Story House. It's a museum as well.
My wife both saw that and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when she was there. Yeah, it's good times. You need to do that.
So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to a couple shots. One I want to try. Everybody recommended was the Warzone Matrix one because they said
the board game shop.
Yeah.
What kind of museum is that? That sounds awful.
No, but okay. From what they were saying in that post, that is pretty much a museum. So a lot of people find those hidden gems, those hard to find games in that shop.
Wow.
So I'm like, I want to go there, but I don't know if I could buy an actual board game, maybe a card game or something like that, because I have a carry-on. That's all I'm using. I'm not even checking anything.
I was worried about that when I traveled to Minneapolis last time. And what I ended up doing, which worked out pretty well, is when I got there, I knew I drove up there, driving my brother-in-law up there, and I knew I was flying back. So I went to Goodwill and I bought a suitcase, and I only paid for one-way travel bags, and that was just all games because I knew that was going to happen. That's a really good way to do it.
I'm thinking about it, but
once.
it's $30 charge for the bag.
But think about the savings on the games.
Yeah, I was thinking like,
you know, $30 charge. I spent that on shipping a large box like the other day, like a single game, and it was nearly $30. So this is kind of worth it.
Yeah, so we'll see. I don't know exactly how I'm gonna do it because I'm gonna fly up on Tuesday, gonna hang out in the city on Wednesday and Thursday, and then my wife's she's training, so I can't really hang out with her during the day. So I'm just gonna explore the city by myself. And then
That sounds so sad.
No, I'm gonna enjoy it. I like that kind of stuff. I'm gonna see a Great Lake, and that's one of the things I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Is an actual Great Lake.
Michigan, right? Is that the one that it borders?
I think it's Erie. Is the one it borders.
Yeah, I just don't remember the lakes.
I remember the names of them. I don't remember which is where.
Okay.
That's the thing. I think it's Erie that's right there, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But looking forward to that, and then I'll be flying back Friday, but we're on different flights because she has to do training. So I'm going to have to kill about 7 hours once I get back before she lands. So I'm just going to stay in El Paso while I'm waiting. Probably go to Game Vault, see what they got there.
Yeah, that'd be worth it.
Go have
go get lunch
dinner
over
or
there.
something, yeah. Well, no, their cafes shut down.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I know. I was thinking, I'm going to go do that. Oh, wait, I can't now.
Well, there's that really bad Dickies that's over there, too, as well.
I don't like Dickies to begin with. So.
Dickies is good in the right way, but they don't do it right. So, regardless.
But yeah, so that should be interesting. So, just let you all know, we aren't going to record that day, but we are going to have that episode that is supposed to be recorded, then already filmed. I think we're going to do that next week.
We're going to try.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. So let's get into this. We're going to be talking about some... our topic this week is a top 8 debate. It's off schedule a little bit, but we're going to be arguing about definitely a topic that we are overqualified to talk about.
Underqualified.
Oh, no, we're overqualified. This is the top 8 war games. Now, little caveat for our war gamer listeners. If you're not familiar with the channel, we're not war gamers. We do board games. This is what we do. But there are ones that fall into the war game category that we have played, and we've decided, well, let's just debate those because we played quite a few.
It was a bit of a struggle too, though.
Yeah, there was a Twilight struggle.
That's not what I was going for, but sure.
Anyway, so yes, that's what we're going to be debating today. But before we do that, Daniel, what have you been playing lately?
Honestly, I haven't been playing a lot with our game nights. That's pretty much it. I haven't really gone out to our other friend's house to play games, but the two that I want to talk about is from our last 2 game nights. The first one being Relic Runners.
Ah, yes.
We played that about 2 weeks ago.
Matthew Dunstan.
Brought it. Matthew Dunstan. Days of Wonder. You ended up picking it up on our Bookman's run.
Yep.
I liked it. It's quite intriguing because you're basically just running around the board. You're trying to build paths. This way you can move faster and collect things to trigger the relics to pop up. And then you need to make sure once there's 2 relics, you can start collecting them. You have to make sure you're in the location of one to click the button and able to run to where the other relic is by the end of your turn to pick up that relic.
Yep.
Therefore,
you have to be able to get to it at some point during that turn.
And I think it's like the first person with 8 relics or 4 of the same or something like that. Or
something like that. Oh no, it's player count.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah, that's
like,
right.
Collectively
for a 3-player,
something.
it was like 7 or 8 or something like that.
Like that.
But it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. It's really quick because it's very simple. You either move down a path, or and then you trigger a area. So if you're like on a tile, you could trigger their ability. Sometimes they'll give you special ability. Sometimes they'll give you a chance to lay down another road, or I forget what like the blue ones are just victory points. The purple ones give you a special ability. It's for
some of them are end game abilities, and others are discard when used.
In game scoring.
Yeah.
And then the other ones were like discard when used, or something that gives you kind of a permanent ability. Like I had one that at that point where it's like you needed one of each individual relic because that's where you're going to get your points. and extra ones are really not worth anything unless you have that thing that says, hey, and for every extra relic that you have of the same type, it's 5 points. So it gives you stuff to trigger for. It's quick. We played that rough in a new game for us, like an hour and a half, and that was just a teaching game too, a learning game. But no, I really did enjoy it. It's really quick. It's gorgeous. Really good components for something that's about, what, 10 years old?
Yeah.
2013, right when everybody was starting to get better at what they're producing, but not their... Days of Wonder has always been top tier.
Yeah.
But everybody else is trying to catch up to Days of Wonder at that point.
Right, exactly. At that point, there was still the upper echelon. Very cool.
But yeah, Relic Runners, I really did enjoy that one a lot.
I did too. It was a good game. Glad I picked it up finally because
Yeah.
that was the one that stood out of all of the Days of Wonder games. And I was like,
That we
the ones I
haven't
don't
played
own, I was like, Relic Runners seems like the one I would like the most, and I think I enjoy it quite a bit. It's definitely not the most, but
yeah, it's not the best Days of Wonder. But our mutual friend is saying that he's going to bring that Murder on the Orient Express game.
True, and I really am
and
excited about
I
that.
really
Yes.
want to try that one.
Awesome. The first one I wanted to talk about was a game that we played from Pretzel Games, whatever their name is, and this was one that we saw a preview of last year at the Gamma Trade Show.
Okay.
It was one of the funniest previews we had ever seen, and it has a 3-letter title. It's a large mammal.
Oh, Yak.
Yeah, that's
I haven't
right.
played that one.
I know you haven't. I finally got a chance to play it. It was with my Friday game group, and it was hilarious because the components on that are just absolutely phenomenal. The yak itself is made out of like a really solid like Bakelite style thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really durable. They have carts, and the entire time our mutual friend Jim, he was just playing with the yaks. And it's just like you could like tilt the cart in a way where it like makes it look like it's like bucking up and down and stuff. So he kept like purposely running it into other carts and like knocking things over and like as if it's like charging like a bull. And it was absolutely ridiculous.
What Yaks do?
We had like 20 minutes of fun before the game started, just fiddling with random stuff. The game itself was pretty fun overall. I did like what it was doing. A very simple idea. You're either spending resources into the cart to buy the bricks from it.
Yeah.
Trying to group certain bricks together. Different colors. The grouping at the end counts for points. Or you're trying to take resources from there, or you're trying to take resources from the middle and then reload the carts.
Okay.
So it's a pretty simple idea. You all play a card. You choose what you're playing, kind of like a pre-programming thing, but it's only one card at a time. And then you play out the actions, and all while these cards start rotating amongst the players.
Okay.
And so you might be aiming for like a certain style of cart that's coming up to you, but then a fog token might come up and confuse the axe, which turns them the opposite direction, and then suddenly you have to wait a couple more turns, which is hilarious. The only problem that I had, other than the components are amazing, the rules are pretty simple and fun, there was multiple times where certain carts do not allow certain types of resources. Like there's bread, meat, and milk. Those are the 3 resources. And
Of course.
Of course, yeah. And there'll be one card that doesn't take meat, one that doesn't take bread, one that doesn't take milk. And every single one of us at some point prepared for a really good turn and then forgot that the next card that was coming up that we needed everything was the only didn't accept the only resource we had. And so we were like, oh wait, now our turn is completely funk because we just can't do it. And that was a kind of a problem. It seems like overly simple and overly complex at the same time, too. Like, for as simple as it is, it's kind of convoluted. Like, the whole fog token mechanism, I don't like that. I don't understand it. Because there's 5 cubes that are in the bag of cubes.
In the butt?
Sir. No.
That's what you said.
They're in the bag. And there's a little mountain thing that has 4 spots, and there's a cardboard fog token on the 4th spot.
Okay.
So when you fill it up with its 3rd fog, you remove that fog token and place all of those fog bricks back in the bag, shake them up, and then when it gets to its 4th, nothing else happens.
Okay.
It's just like, at that point, that's when you reintroduce those cubes to it.
Okay.
which it seems like it had like a whole paragraph of like how it works, and I still don't understand why. Like it just like put 8 cubes in the bag, or maybe they wanted to make them a little less common. But
I think
at
that's
the same
what
time,
they're probably going for, is to make it less common to be pulled.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just feel like it could have been done way better than what it did.
Well, that's because you're not as smart as them. They designed it really well.
I guess so. But other than that, Yak was the first game that we played that night.
Oh, nice. So the next game I'm going to talk about is what we played last Wednesday. It was our buddy's pick, and he hadn't played his copy of it, but you haven't played your copy of it, and I sure as hell haven't played my copy of it. And the only person who has played their copy of this game was our mutual friend Dom. But we have played its predecessor, and this is Almanac Crystal Peaks.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, what? None of us have played the copy of it? Yeah, that's true. I have not played it until that day.
Yeah, and so I really do enjoy this series of games. I like what they're doing. I honestly hope they make more of them.
Yeah.
Just, you can see them sitting right there. They look like little books.
Yep.
But they're straightforward worker placements, but each page of the book, because you're literally playing in a book, has different rule sets. And whoever's leading the caravan can decide where they're going next. And so you have a little information. One thing's going to sell better at a location, but you're also going to be able to gain different things at a different location. So you got to kind of be well on the bid, do well on the bid, or be like me, like there's only one bid I really wanted to win.
Sure.
And it's just because I needed to get those specific resources where I can finish contracts. And that's the thing. You're fulfilling contracts, you're gathering resources, you're turning in those resources to gain coins, because the person who has the most money at the end of the game was the most successful caravan. Very simple worker placement game. But where it gets you is each individual page in that book has different rule sets. So you have to play, there's a section where you place ladders, and then anybody that uses your ladder, you get a resource of your choice. But you get to the higher levels, there needs to be ladders in place, and you better be able to make a path for you to get up there. It doesn't cost me anything for using your ladder, but you get a resource of your choice. So if you're blocked in a location, you're like, okay, I know people are going to want to fulfill contracts. Let me put my ladder over here. This way, if I can't go to a location where I need those resources, now I can choose a resource of my choice to help me fulfill my contracts later. So it's just that give and pull. And another page is like, oh, when you're placing, you have to place in a line, or you can't place in a certain area because something else is there. Or my favorite one was like, okay, I'm in this building, so I can place it either in this building or this building, because
that was my least favorite one.
Like, that's because it broke your brain.
No, it was fine. It wasn't that big of a deal. I was just like, I just
my least favorite one was the I think it was the last one. It was the arena.
Yeah, the arena.
That one broke my brain a lot.
The one that I liked the most was the volcano.
That one was cool. I like that one.
The volcano was hilarious.
I love the little push your luck aspect of it, because it's like, okay, I need these resources. Because the way the volcano worked was where if you were going into a volcano location, depending on which one you went to, you would have to beat a number. You roll an 8-sided die?
8-sided die.
You got to beat the number of the location plus how many workers are on there. So if you're the only worker on there and it's a 1, you only have to score 2 or higher.
Right.
Unless you get an X, and then you immediately fail. Oh no, that was the encounters.
That was the encounters.
Yeah. But if you fail, you still get a resource. You get a fire resource, but you don't get the resources that you wanted.
Right.
But there was like the very tippy top, you needed to have a 4 just in the base there, and then your worker made it a 5, so you needed to roll 5 or higher on an 8-sided dice, and there was 3 spots. So if 3 people went there, then you would have to roll a crit, basically. You would have to roll an 8 to get the resources at location.
Really genuinely funny.
Yeah, so it was a good time. I really did like this game a lot. I love this series. Honestly, I hope they do more.
Yeah.
Because honestly, you don't even need to give us like another big box series like those. What are you looking for?
Don't mind me.
Another big box series like that. Just give us books. Just give us more books. We have all the workers we need. Give us more encounter cards. We don't need a whole nother box. We already got 2 of them.
Yeah.
So, Almanac, the Crystal Peaks.
The last one I wanted to talk about was one that I just got off my shelf of shame, as well as you have it on your current shelf of shame, which is what I was looking for. Let
me see which one.
Yeah. Feel free to take a look at that.
Star Wars Unlocked?
That's right. Wow. Yeah. How are you not looking at my paper?
I was gonna get it off my shelf of shame today, because my buddy was supposed to come over. Our game head Geek was supposed to come over today, but then he got a honey-do list the size of the Nile. So.
Yep. Well, he deserved that after last week or something. No, the last few weeks, me and a mutual friend of ours have been playing the unlocks and just really enjoying them. I ended up another friend of ours who was a regular at the shop. He started coming to game night, and he had never done one of the escape room games before. So it was like, oh, we haven't started a new one yet. Do you like Star Wars? Yeah. All right, let's do this one. So we did the first scenario, the easy one, because it was an easy, a medium, and a hard.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to give spoilers away, so don't worry.
Yeah.
But it is Star Wars themed, of course. That one is the first one is you're in, I want to say Hoth.
Oh, it's the ice one.
Yeah, the ice one. Yeah. You're riding those mammals. I don't know.
I forget what they're called.
Yeah, the weird.
They all come to me. The tauntauns.
Tauntauns, yeah. So you're riding a tauntaun, and like the whole thing, it doesn't take story out of like regular Star Wars. You're not gonna get spoilers for the movies or anything like that.
Oh, come on.
It's just setting the theme.
If it's based on the original trilogy, those movies have been out since the 70s and the 80s. If you haven't watched it yet, then
right. Then why are you even playing this?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? No, but no, it doesn't give any specific stories. Like there's no craziness that like you have to know Star Wars behind it. But being the easiest of the three, we knew it wasn't going to be difficult. It was two pretty well experienced escape room players and one person who's never done one before. So between us three, there was an hour time limit. We beat it in 28 minutes. And it was not even close.
That's not too bad though if you think about it,
Yeah.
because you, me, and I'm assuming it's your partner.
Jim.
Yeah.
Yep.
We did an escape room pretty quickly.
Yeah, we did. And we're planning on doing it again this year if you go. But no, it's...
Yeah, that's going to be tough though.
Yeah,
this year, just because with her travel schedule. Because, well, wait, when is it supposed to be? The 1st of October, right?
No, like 29th of September.
Well, end of September, early October.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be a possibility, just for the simple fact of...
Sorry, we'll beat one for you, don't worry.
There we go.
But, yeah, no, this escape room, it worked pretty cool. I always expect the unlocks now to have something really kind of innovative, something different about it. And this one didn't disappoint. I think a lot of Star Wars fans, especially ones who have never done escape rooms before, will really enjoy this one. As far as lately the escape rooms that I've been playing, this is not one of the most exciting. Just because I think they're trying to make it a little easier. Just because I'm assuming they're trying to pull in Star Wars fans who have never done escape rooms before. So their level of easy is extra easy. But that time will tell as far as the other two go, because I have not done the second or third one yet.
Speaking of which, get a little off topic here, but I saw a video on YouTube.
Did you now?
Of some people, they were doing an escape room online, and it's an actual escape room. So what you have is that you and your buddies are working together with, like I guess they call it like an agent or something like that, who is in the physical escape room and is using like a camera to show, okay, this is what I see here, this is what I'm looking at here, this is what I'm looking at here, and I was like, that hurts my brain.
I mean, I already can't play video games that have first person because I would get sick. Man, that would be equally parts awesome and awful.
I'll have to show you that video. But when I was thinking about that, I was like, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
But that would be so hard to pull off. Because
really would.
They would be, like, when we're in a Zoom call, they'd be sitting in the screen during a Zoom call, and then they'll have the person who's, like, the host who steps out, and then you have the one person that's actually running the game for you. But in essence, first person, all you see is their hand touching things. It's quite intriguing.
That is. Okay, yeah, please show me that when we're done. But that was the second game I played, Star Wars Unlocked. Or, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, it's Star Wars Unlocked.
Yep.
That's the only one of the Unlocked series that
doesn't go unlocked in something. Yeah. It's Star Wars.
Which also, it's the only one in the series where you have to download a separate app for.
Do you?
Yes.
Did not know that. I'm going to download that app
one specifically for that one.
Cool. With that being said, we're done with what we've been playing.
All right.
Let's get into the topic.
That's right. Today we're talking about our top 8 war games. And we posted this on the Facebook group, Board Game Revolution on Facebook. in order to get a poll for the other people. So we will be using that. They're always welcome to add comments, explain what their reasoning, why they voted for it. But on the top 8, the reason we picked these specific games, these are not the top 8 highest on Board Game Geek. They are the top 8 highest ranked on Board Game Geek that we have both played. So that's a very specific caveat that we like to clarify.
We also clarified to them too that this is a top 8 debate by board gamers, not war gamers.
Yes. Yeah, and I love how you put that as a clarifying. It's like, so don't ream us too bad about it. Like, we get it. Like, take it with a grain of salt. This is silly. It's supposed to be fun. But we added in the top 8 on here. And before we get into our honorable mentions, those top 8 are, we have our number 1 seed, which is Twilight Struggle.
Going up against our 8 seed, Risk Star Wars Edition.
We have our number 2 seed, Rising Sun.
Going up against our number 7 seed, Heroes, Land, Air, and Sea.
We have our number 3 seed, Kemet.
Going up against our 6 seed, Risk Legacy. And before we move on, the reason why there's 2 Risk is because they play distinctly different.
Vastly different, yes. And not even just like compared to base Risk.
Yeah.
These 2 are already different than base Risk. And
different to themselves, yeah.
Yep. And our number 4, Star Wars X-Wing.
Versus the number 5 seed, Game of Thrones 2nd Edition.
But of course, when we have these lists, we pick the top 8 that we both played, but we have some honorable mentions too, and so does the audience.
But before we get going on that, I'm going to read you the definition of war games as according to Board Game Geek. They are games that depict military actions. War games are set a variety of timelines from ancient period to present conflicts and even in the future. Thematically, war games cover everything from actions between small units on a very small board to largely extremely detailed conflicts and even global scale war. Although most war games are based historical, there are war games that are based on fantasy or science fiction, as well as war games based on hypothetical but historically based situations, i.e. nuclear war between the Soviet Union and the USA. Probably the most popular period for war games is World War II, followed by the Napoleonic Wars and the American Civil War. There are 3 levels of war games. The 3 levels are tactical, operational, and strategic. Tactical games depict a skirmish, battle, or series of battles using smaller scale units and maps that depict a battleground with a few miles or less, sometimes much less in size.
As an example, chess.
Mm-hmm. Examples of tactical war games: Advanced Squad Leader, Combat Commander, Pacific. Operational war games cover a broad scope of military actions greater than single battles. These may cover entire smaller war or a series of operations or campaigns within a greater war. War games on the strategic level usually recreate a major war on a large scale. Typical units in such a game will be corps or army level, although in so-called monster war games, no set definition, but usually a game with larger maps, a lot of counters, it takes a long time, divisions and even smaller size units can be depicted. Strategic war games are more likely than tactical or operational to include big picture issues such as production of new military units. Other aspects, this is a long definition, people. Beyond the level war games are choices. For example, the games that focus exclusively on naval battles, campaigns are common. Depicting air battles are popular. With these rough definitions are a huge variety of mechanics, themes, approaches, and many level of complexity. It's generally accepted that on average, war games are more complex than any other type of games, although it is not that hard and not a hard, fast rule. Naturally, all war games include combat, although not all games that include combat would typically be deemed war games. And it also deals with like number of players, cardboards, and miniatures. This is a very, very long definition here, so I gave you the gist of it.
All right. With that being said, even then we're going to argue some caveats because we're arguing it from a board game standpoint.
Yeah.
So with that definition, we have some honorable mentions that we wanted to talk about. Did you want to talk about ours or the viewers first?
Do the viewers first.
All right. So, added by Ian, we have Root, which is obviously a fictionalized setting, anthropomorphic animals, different asymmetric area control, and goals, endgame goals that they're trying to go for. Very popular game. I have played it. You have not.
I have not.
Even then, I don't know. I wasn't super impressed with it, but
from my understanding, from what people have said, Root is a good introductory to like a coin series type of war game.
Yep.
Even though it's not really good as an introductory game.
No, that's right.
The next one added here is a good introductory war game added by Mike. This is Memoir 44. I've heard this is probably one of the easiest ones for people to learn.
Right. And other than the fact that this is area control, Max added Blood Rage. Do you agree with that?
I didn't see it on the list, so yeah, I disagree with it wholeheartedly, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Because it's not really, it's more area control or area minority,
Yeah.
whereas you're not taking tactical actions against another person. You're just trying
Right.
to fight someone, take control of an area, but then again, the same could be said for a game that is on our list.
Right.
Max also added Ankh along the same lines of Blood Rage.
Okay. Max added also Star Wars Rebellion.
He added a lot here, so we're going to just go through it.
Max is a war game fan.
Star Wars Rebellion, which we'll talk about in a little bit. He also added Inish, and there is a comment down below talking about Inish where it's really not a war game because you can still win the game without getting into any conflict at all.
Right, same reason like Scythe wouldn't be considered a war game.
Um,
Max also added Lords of Hellas.
and Ragnarok, which are basically the same game. One's Greek, one's Norse.
Okay.
He also added Marvel Crisis Protocol.
And he also added Star Wars Shatterpoint, which is a miniature skirmish game.
How's it going, Illuminous?
Hey, Luminous.
Yeah, so Shatterpoint, I can kind of agree with because it's a skirmisher game.
Yeah.
Next
Yeah,
up
it's a
here
battle.
is Dominant Species. I did see this on the list. I've never played it, so I can't.
Ian added TI4, Twilight Imperium 4th Edition.
Peter added War of the Ring.
And Joshua added Dragon Dice.
Sure.
Okay. So Joshua explained. Okay. So he explained his reasoning behind Dragon Dice, and without having read this, I'll read it to you guys and let's see what his thoughts are. Despite originally marketed as a collectible dice game from TSR, Dragon Dice is in fact a war game. Players build forces to an agreed health point value and fight to capture battlefield location using magic, missiles, and melee actions. It is now marketed by SFR as a compact war game with streamlined rules played with dice armies. Dragon Dice conceptualizes all of the elements of a miniature war game. The dice are your units, the terrain they fight for, and dragons summoned to battle. Players need only a pocket full of dice. Setup takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes?
If it's just dice, 6-sided die, I'm assuming.
Yeah, but only 5 minutes though? Anyway, you can play on a card table. It has all of the deep strategy of a war game without having to paint miniatures or build terrain. Without having played it, I will not criticize that pick because it seems like he is very passionate about it.
And he's actually
thank you for
made some good points about it too.
Yeah.
Rose Marigine says Twilight Imperium, whatever group I'm playing. Marigine?
No,
I see what you're.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever group I'm playing with, we end up debating and making deals across the table, and then someone manages to move to MR.
And I was cracking up, not because of the name, I was cracking up because of Illuminous's comment of Splendor Duel being a war game.
And Mechatol Rex is MR, just so those who haven't played TI4.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, cool. Jason added Risk Legacy because I'm banned forever from playing Risk because of how I dispatched my little nephew for his resource cards. He has 2 kids of his own now. I'm still banned. Which is amazing, by the way.
And this is the
Jason,
comment I was
well
talking
done.
about earlier from Chris. Inish, there's absolutely no need for war in that. Explore, build temples, breed.
Oswald added Hard Choice, I love Blood Rage, Inish, and Rising Sun.
Richard Cave says, struggled with Twilight, struggled, love Root.
Patrick added Root. There's nothing better. It's my favorite game.
Ginger said, Kemet, love power tiles, the way the map makes it where you're never more than a couple steps away from anywhere you want to go. It is impossible to win by turtling, so you have to be aggressive if you want to compete.
Ian added, hot take, X-Wings is a miniature game, not a board game. BGG has gray lines on what a board game is. Which I don't disagree with.
I don't disagree with him at all.
But at the same time, it's still a war game.
Yeah, you're still fighting.
I mean, you're still fighting. It's still a war.
And honestly, it works as a mini game to have it open-ended like it is compared to other war games because you're supposed to be in space.
Right. I mean, if we had like the loosest of definitions, like yes, it's still something you play on a tabletop.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm not including Gauntlet Legends in my favorite war game. You know.
He also added Root, just so good. It's a hard teach, but once you get people on board, so much fun. Asymmetrical factions, well-crafted player boards, with built-in player aids, excellent components. Personally, a top 10 game of all time.
And Illuminous, to answer your question, Undaunted was counted as a war game, but neither him nor I have played
it. Yeah.
Leighton added, most of my war games are sitting unplayed on the shelf, though I did play through the tutorial of Atlantic Chase, and it's fantastic. Combat Commander is good stuff too. Hopefully, I'll get to the rest one day.
Jason states, and this will be our last one here, for war games, I think Thunderbolt Apache Leader might be the top of what is on the list. It's two-player games are hard for us to get to the table. You have an easier time than I do.
I know. I do have a much easier time, but that theme would immediately put everyone else in my family off.
Yeah, I'm probably the only one that would play a two-player war game with you.
Probably. In fact, that might be one of the ones on our list. Let's talk about our honorable mentions from our stuff. We each have 3.
We just got called out.
Yeah, how dare they call us war game? I mean, Undaunted is like, what, 3 years old at most?
Yeah, like 3 or 4. Yeah.
Come on now, give us some leeway.
Don't get me wrong, I do want to try it, but it's one of those things where like I struggle because every time I see it on sale, I'm like, oh, but it's not going to get played.
Yeah, exactly. It would be you buying it for us to play it once.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Although we might play it more. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm hoping you can find it like on one of your little Savers finds or something like
Maybe.
that.
That would be fantastic. So
yeah.
Undaunted just shows up at a thrift store one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, that'd be good. Alright, so here's tails, here's heads. Let's find out who talks about our honorable mentions first. That's you.
Alright, so my first honorable mention here is, I'm just going to go ahead and get my joke one out of the way, because I honestly don't understand why it's in the Board Game Geek category.
Yeah, so even I stumbled upon this. I was like, that's odd.
I think it's because of the license on it.
Sure.
Technically, you're fighting with another race or group, and this is Star Trek Panic. I honestly don't know why it was on Board Game Geek. No, I get what, like, Star Trek Ascendancy, the X-Wing version of Star Trek. I can't remember what that one's called, but
Attack Wing.
Attack Wing. Those, sure, they were on this list. Those are war games. This one, I'm like, I guess technically because you're fighting like Romulans and Klingons, but you're technically not at war with them.
You're completing episodes.
Yeah, so it's like, sure, whatever. But I do want to talk about it because it's a great game. But if this is on the list, then why is it Capsule Panic not on this list,
right.
or
exactly.
Munchkin Panic, or any of those things?
Right.
So yeah, it's just I wanted to put this on the list because I just found it funny that it was in the war games category.
Right. My number 3, I wanted to, I mean, it has war in the title, therefore it's a war game. Because it is a game that has war in the title, and it's about war. This is nuclear war. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
I didn't see that on the list.
No, it's really not on the list. My number 3 was Caesar Seize Rome in 20 minutes.
I have wanted to try this one too.
And this one is, it really isn't a war game. I would be really unfair to call it a war game because there's not tactical battling in any aspect. It is straight up area control because your chips are split down the middle. There's control on either side of it, and you put it down on between 2 areas, and that will decide which side you have power over controlling. So one might be a 6 and a 0, meaning the side that I put it facing towards, I have 6 power in that region and 0 in the opposite region. Gaining control over certain regions will give you special abilities like to remove tokens, place new tokens, gain extra control, but basically you're trying to put out your control markers before the other player. It works really well, but I'm not going to push it hard. I don't consider a war game. I also consider putting Magic Arena of the Planeswalkers on this, because that is also closer to a war game than either of those two are. With that being said, I really do like Caesar, and I feel like that would be a great way if someone is interested into like a war battling theme, and you don't want to scare them away with a full war game. If they're like not a gamer, then Caesar is a great way to do that because it's a very easy concept.
Okay.
All right, number 2.
That's you, no?
All right, guy number 2. My number 2 was on the list, and again, it is more thematic as a war game because you are fighting over 3 different theaters. There's air, there's land, and there's sea. and those are the cards that you're playing against. This is called Land, Air, and Sea, and it's a
which is not to be
miniature
confused
game.
with Heroes of Land, Air, and
Right,
Sea.
very different game. This is basically a micro game.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, you have 18 cards that you play between you and the 3 theaters, but you're trying to vie for power, and it's kind of like a little 2 out of 3 tug of war. Works really well. I love the fact that you can flip cards. It turns them to a generic power. Otherwise, you're playing powers between it. Even though it's 18 cards, you only get 6 cards. Every card has its own little special ability on how it works. It's a really smart little game, and I can't wait to show you, honestly.
I do need to try that one. So the next pick on my list here, and I'm going to go with the big one. It should be my number one, but the other game I have on my list feels more as a war game. And this one is Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. This is a war game in essence, but you can still win the game because it's the first person to a certain amount of points. I think it's like 10 points for the short game.
Okay.
And so you're doing it by either claiming land or controlling Mechatol Rex. You're doing action selections. You can turtle and be fine, but you still have to expand out as you need to go to get your empire going. It's a really great time. If you have the time investment for it, I say at least try it once. I own the game and I haven't played it in quite a while, but it is very good. It is tactical. There is strategy. There is warfare. You're basically fighting other players to take control of different parts of the civilization. It's just the time sink for this one is rough. Because I played a 3-player game of this, and it took us about 4 or 5 hours to get it done. So, Twilight Imperium 4th Edition.
I do want to try that.
I want to. It's just that we don't really do all-day gaming, and that would be the only game we play that day.
That's right. All right, and our last one.
Starting with me, and this is the one I'm talking about, where it gives you more of a war game feel, and this is should be 2 players only. Can go up to 4 players. I don't recommend it.
I already know which one
this is Star Wars Rebellion.
Yep.
And I like this one because not only are you getting a fight in the space, you're getting a fight on planets. Yeah, the whole goal is you're the Empire trying to find the Rebels' base. The Rebels can actually move that base somewhere down the line. It's a phenomenal game. I really enjoy it, especially because it gives you that that feel like you start. If you're the Empire player, you're starting out with a lot of resources, and the Rebels have to build up. They're feeling very weak. They're feeling very anxious in the beginning part of the game, and then you get into the second half of the game, and they're getting that resources. They're getting the build up. They're starting to pump out troops, kind of like in the deck builder game. You are feeling a lot of that tension in a smaller aspect of it with the deck builder, but this one, when you want that war game feel, this is how you do it. You're fighting on the land, take control of planets. You're fighting in the air or in space to take control of the area of space and stuff like that. So you have generals that go onto the planet that fight. You have admirals that fight in space. You have all this stuff going on there, and the whole goal is for the rebels to reach a certain point on popularity and then take out the Death Star. And then the whole point with the thing is you need to take your Death Star to the rebel base and blow it up. If you're the Empire, it gives you the Star Wars feel, it gives you the war game feels, it gives you that tactical feel. I really do enjoy it.
Cool. And the last one is a war game. Finally, I will be telling you about a war game that I quite like. And this was originally made as you would. It has all the standard tropes of war games.
I know it is.
You cut out your little squares as your troops.
Once you started doing this, I'm like, yep, I was right. This is on your list.
Each one has its movement, its defensive value, its attack value. It has its different levels of information, except for one of the pieces. One of the pieces is significantly larger than the rest, and that is the ogre of this game. I absolutely love this game. It's a hex-based war game, so you have the hex grid as the map, and one player plays as a single massive unit, and the rest of them plays with multiple different fighters. And what set this game apart from any other, I was very hesitant to play it for the first time. And we played at the shop. And what made this game just absolutely a riot amongst everything else was when I was playing against a player who's very well familiar with it, teaching it. And I started going up to some of his pieces. And I was like, okay, I want to blow these up. Wait a minute. Can I run you over? And he was like, yeah, you'll take tread damage. I'm like, that's worth it. And I just ran over a bunch of his pieces that were trying to defeat me. And then I blew up the rest. Oh my god, it was so satisfying. Just when I discovered that one moment, it was just so brilliant. It was like, wow, I can just straight up destroy half of your units because you came too close to me, and I'm just going to run your butt over. That's awesome. Like, any game that allows that level of ridiculousness is just funny. I love that. So, Ogre had to be my number one. I really do adore that game. It's one I haven't played in a while, and I'm actually kind of sad I haven't, but I would totally play that again sometime soon.
Nice. All right, with that being said, that was our honorable mentions. Let's get into the wargaming.
And I do like to point out, Illuminous is shots fired right now with Twilight Imperium being a sleeper fest.
Yeah, no, he also went to the deck builder, too.
That's true. I do like the Star Wars deck builder quite a bit.
I do like Star Wars deck builder as well. It's just that if different flavors, I guess, for if you want. Star Wars Rebellion is really good.
I don't know. Would Blood Bowl be considered a war game?
Never played Blood Bowl, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a sport thing, but it's like war battle version. I don't know. Probably.
Maybe. I didn't say so on BGG, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But then again, what does BGG know? Star Trek Panic's a war game.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I do agree that their line is a bit gray.
Notice that on Star Trek Panic, question marks.
Right. That's how it works. Nuclear war. All right. So in this top 8 debate, the way this works is quite simple. We take the top 8 games on Board Game Geek that Daniel and I have both played. We are going to argue them out in a college football style brackets. Well, I mean football style brackets, right? We're going to seed the top 8 or top 1 versus 8, then down so forth inward. Anyway,
and then reseed in the second round. Higher seed faces lower seed.
That's right. So we're always going to do that until the final 2, where we debate them out. Each of our games have a criteria that they must meet in order for us to consider them to move on to the next level, and that includes our number 1, ease of play, familiarity and simplicity of their mechanisms, likelihood to get it to the table, whether it's mechanism or theme. Didn't we change that from last week? I thought there was something.
No, it's the one underneath.
Ah, yes. And then, is it easy to learn, understand, or to teach?
The next criteria is replay value, the length of time and scaling well, the minimum number of plays for the full experience, as well as expandability, which includes already existing expansions, up to 1 possible future expansions, or expansions that have been confirmed by the designer or publisher.
Alright, and meaningful choice, impact on other players, the depth of strategy, tactics, or skills, which will be very wide range in this game, or in this debate, and do arbitrary choices or analysis paralysis have an impact on the actual gameplay itself?
As well as game immersion. Is the game fun to lose? Does it involve a lot of player interactions? I.e. table talk, role-playing, all that sort of stuff in memorable moments. What's the thing that's going to make you stand up and scream and make everybody look at you in a room?
That's right. And art and production. The art, the pieces and components, and the graphic design. Those are all up for debate. We know that some of that is subjective, but as always, some of it's not.
Yes. As well, if we cannot come to a consensus with this criteria, that's why you need to be a part of this and go to the Board Game Revolution on Facebook and look for our poll to vote. Tiebreaker moves the game on.
And also, feel free to vote in our chat if you're watching us doing a live episode. And if you're not watching us do a live, why not? Come join us live. Come vote. Like our friend Illuminous, please voice your opinion in the chat as well. Let's get into the first one. You ready?
Yep.
We have our number 1 seed, Twilight Struggle.
Gonna up against our 8 seed, Risk Star Wars Edition.
As always, I'll flip the coin of doom. He'll draw from the cup of doom. That'll decide which one of us argues for which side. Here we go. I'll be starting us off.
And you get Twilight Struggle.
Twilight Struggle. Oh boy. So, where do I begin with this? It was intimidating the first time I ever busted out. It is a massive board, a huge world, that you are going to be debating.
Well, of course, it's a huge world. It's our world.
Right. It is the world. Right? But no, it's this massive map that you are competing over. This game takes place over the Cold War, where you are either the side of the USSR or the USA, vying for power over pretty much the whole world. Yeah. And so you play over multiple ages. By the end of the game, is either someone will win by having the most points, or if you have
yes, it is Twilight Struggle.
Twilight Struggle, yeah. Or if you have pulled your side all the way to the most influence, then you win. It's not technically battles, but this was the most intriguing battle game I think I've played up until this point. When you and I played this for the first time, you're the only one who I probably would play with.
Yeah.
I bought it hoping I would enjoy it, because it was #1 seed on Board Game Geek for a long time, the #1 game. And so I was like, okay, I'm willing to always give something that well known a try.
And if I remember correctly, it's still in the top 10 or 20. It should
still be in the top 10. I believe so. The way this game works is quite simple. It's a card-based system. You're playing cards on your turn, trying to sway powers on either side, maybe try to add more influence on that,
14.
gain control over certain areas, or just overall try and gain power over different areas. And the way I ended up winning was actually the third way to win, is I had complete control and domination over Europe when that scorecard came out. And one of the cool things about this game is that
you didn't win.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I won the round
lost
before.
by 1 turn.
Yes.
Because of that.
I pulled it because there's also like a push and pull aspect of the game.
Yes.
Where there's a tug of war. Whoever gets the 21st wins the game.
Absolutely, yeah. And so we're fighting over this tug of war, going back and forth, and the cards that you play in your hand, you can have the scoring cards. So you score what continent scores when.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's up to whoever has the card in their hand, knowing when is the valuable time to play it.
Okay.
Which will help you in that tug of war. I love that system.
Yeah.
That's so brilliant, because if I know that I don't have it, and we're on like the last hand of that deck, I'm suddenly very nervous because I know you have that continent.
Yep.
Personally, I think this was one of the most riotous times we've had playing a 2-player game. I liked this a lot. That's not to say I didn't like the game that you're about to debate, but I don't see how this couldn't move on.
Lumina says it didn't age well. I can see that. They have updated it with some other games. I think with the Cape of Africa or something like that, the Horn of Africa. That's a more updated version of this game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, everything you said is true. It was a phenomenal game. I'm glad we played it. I may even just pick myself up a copy to say I own the game, just because I don't think it's ever going to get played other than with you.
Probably not.
So, but it was that good. I really did enjoy it a lot. Mm-hmm. But the game I have to argue about is Risk Star Wars Edition. The thing about this game, this is the most distinct Risk I have ever played, because it has nothing to do with Risk. Risk Legacy plays a lot like regular Risk,
right,
with special rules and stuff like that. This one is because you're playing on 3 different distinct battlefields, and mind you, this is another one of those Star Wars games that I highly recommend you only play 2 players. This way you have full control of everything.
Yeah.
Playing 4 players it's functional, but it's weird because it just bounces back and forth. You got half the deck. You're working with your teammate. Maybe you should play that, or I can play this, stuff like that.
Sure.
I like the fact that it has 3 distinct battlefields. You got Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker battling it out. You have I think it's the what is that planet called with the Ewoks? It's the moon. Endor. You're fighting on the ground with Endor, with the different troops. And then you're also having the space battle in the thing. And the board itself is shaped like a TIE fighter.
Yeah,
because
which is pretty great.
Which is cool, because it gives you the 3 distinct fields of play. And so you're just playing out cards. And I don't think there's dice in this one, is there? Yeah,
I'm sure there are.
Yeah. You're rolling some dice, putting out troops, and fighting and trying to take control of certain areas. And there was one in the game. trigger that just automatically wins, and that's the lightsaber duel. So if you pull the track all the way to one side, it ends the game.
Right.
Yeah, so it's really, really good, because the space battle, you're fighting against the Death Star. There's a card in there for the Empire side that just allows them to shoot off the Death Star. Mm-hmm. It is phenomenally well done. It's a great game. I don't see it moving on. Both games are not easy to play.
Nope.
The replay value aspect, Twilight Struggle just has so many cards in there.
Yep.
That it just feels different.
And there's
so much more meaningful choice.
Like there's so many different ways to play those cards too. They're multifunction cards.
I think the one category I would give to Star Wars is armed production. Even though it's a mass market game, the production value is just a little bit better for a game that came out.
I do remember the board sitting a little off.
Yeah, I do remember that, but again, it's Hasbro, so. And then if you get the black edition, it's much, much nicer too.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I honestly think Twilight Struggle moves on.
All right, I agree. Twilight Struggle. I am having a hard time writing that. I am struggling. Alright, so the next one we have is Rising Sun versus Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. Here we go.
This is your favorite bracket right here.
This is my favorite bracket, let me tell you.
You get Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea.
Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. This is by Scott Almes and from Gameling Games, and yet not of the Tiny Epic series.
This is like the biggest Scott Almes game.
This is easily one of the biggest ones because it's massive.
It is the biggest Scott Almes game because I mean he's done the solo games, he's done the Almanac.
Yep.
Nothing. All those games combined in the Tiny Epics don't equal the size of Heroes Land and Sea boxes.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, but so immediately that puts it in contention. I'm not saying it wins, but it puts it in contention for art production, right? It's a really great production. But this one, you have the different theaters. You have air, land, and sea that you are fighting against. But these are fantasy-style creatures. You are battling against them. I don't remember the exact mechanisms on how you battle them. But I know that there is some distinctive area control and how you move. I don't have much else good to say about it. Oh, I really like Scott Almes' designs. I will give him that.
Not this one.
This is one I am not a fan of. Because, and here's the thing, when we played it, you could completely ignore at least one of those. Like, I don't think a single one of us did
went
air.
To air, yeah.
No. We only did land or sea. Which is fine.
And in fact, land and sea are your major requirements, or the ones you were going to concentrate more, because you're going to control like an island. This way you get the control there. Yeah. And then you can just take your ship to the other one instead of using, because you have to get up to a different tier system just to get into the air with your dirigibles or whatever they have. Right,
exactly. No, I just felt like it was too easy to push it from a 3-player game, or from a 4-player game down to a 3-player game down to a 2-player game, and only 2 people are having fun with it. That was my big argument against it.
I think, and it's funny because I like a lot of like dudes on the map, these kind of tactical skirmisher games. I was not enamored with this like our other 2 friends were. We played it with our friends Bryce and Dom, the main ones we always play with, and you and me were both just sitting there like. I mean, I probably liked it more than you, but even then,
you did,
I was like,
because I didn't like it.
I was like, and there's another thing. This has a runaway leader ability.
Yes, it does.
If someone is playing really well or has a good jump to the game, they're gone. You're going to have a hard time catching up.
20 minutes through that game, and I could have left, and it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, because I got 3rd place, I think, in that game.
Probably.
And even then, it was like. Yeah. Nowhere near what the top 2 were.
When it comes down to like that whole factor, is this fun to lose? No. I didn't enjoy most of it. And and that was a shame because I was genuinely really excited and I don't know what happened. It didn't translate, it didn't work. I'm glad that this wasn't part of the Tiny Epics because I do generally like most of those. I feel like they could have branched into Tiny Epics. If they really wanted to, but I'm glad they didn't.
My biggest disappointment with this game was the fact that he finally made a big game, but there was no meat on the bone. Right. It was literally just a bone.
Yeah.
Like, you could see
there was a really big bone.
There was something there.
Yeah.
Something. It's just, it needed more. Not
this
stuff,
game
but
gave
more,
us a giant bone.
More streamlining than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It was clunky, it was big, I didn't like it. But anyway, go ahead and argue your side. I am sorry, I'm not arguing this very well, but sorry.
Yeah. So here's my thing about Rising Sun. Honestly, I have a big issue calling this one a war game. This is straight up area control. Even though I love this game, out of these two games, I play Rising Sun hands down.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the fact of what it does, where you're working with a teammate if you possibly want. You're working with, or you can betray them if it means really good for you to do something. It's basically an army dukes it out. You're making decisions to choose to keep your army in there, or you're bidding on this stuff to hire Ronin, to use your gods, or seppuku and just kill your troops to gain money off of that. It has a lot of war aspects of it, but it no more so than Heroes Land, Air, and Sea. In fact, I think there's more war game aspects in Heroes Land, Air, and Sea than there is in. Though I do like the fact in Rising Sun, you have those Lotus Clan or the Dragonfly Clan where they could just airdrop themselves into any location that they want. They're like the Spec Ops troopers.
That's right. Those were pretty fun.
So I do enjoy this game a lot. I think it is a better game than Heroes Land, Air, and Sea. It's actually easier to teach and learn. I think it wins ease of play because when it comes down to it, you're drawing 3 tiles. In the very beginning, you're deciding to work with someone or not. If you do work with someone, you're discussing with them during the phase. You have 3 tiles on your hand, and you get to make a decision no matter what you discuss with them. But you have good tactical meaningful choice in this one because you're working with someone or not. You can betray them or not. You can say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and then do something completely different. So it's just a lot of interesting aspects of what this game is doing. Compared to Heroes Land, Air, and Sea, I think this one should move on. But let's go through the easy play Rising Sun, I think.
Okay.
What do you think?
I would call it a wash. Neither of them are particularly easy. I don't think Heroes of Land, Air, Sea was specifically difficult to learn.
It was.
It was just convoluted.
It was very convoluted.
Like, I understood how badly I
have an easier chance of teaching Rising Sun than I would with Air, Land, and Sea.
I feel like I can't make that call just because it has been so long, and it was just such a sour experience. I don't think that would be fair.
All right, so you watch that. Replay value, Rising Sun.
Rising Sun, yes.
Meaningful choice, Rising Sun. I think there's such good stuff.
Absolutely.
Game immersion, Rising Sun.
Yep, and art and production.
Though Land, Air, and Sea would give them a run for the money there.
Yep.
But I agree, Rising Sun moves on just by our criteria alone.
Also, I'm going to act like I'm writing because I already wrote it down. All right, our next one. I'm sorry, because it hurts me so much because I like Scott Arms' designs. The vast majority of them I really enjoy, and this one was one of the most frustrating experiences. Sorry.
I don't blame you.
Our next one is our number 3 seed, Kemet, versus our number 6 seed, Risk Legacy.
This has turned into like the area control aspect of
which
wargaming.
Wargaming parts of it that you can gain benefit from area control, but really, it's...
This is you?
Yep.
You get Risk Legacy.
Okay. So, obviously, Risk is the war game, right? It's not with like actual
Campaign for North Africa is the war game.
Campaign for North Africa, and like you have Command and Colors series and all those other ones. I get all this, but I'm saying if you say war game to somebody who's not a gamer, what is the first thing they say? Risk, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the game of global domination. It's well known for that. And what Rob Davio, friend of the podcast, said, he had to basically design it in secret because he knew he was taking a beloved IP and he was doing something amazing to it. And he knew what he was trying to do. And a small team of people knew what he was trying to do, but they had to ultimately keep it completely secret from the company as they were doing it because it was such a drastic departure. Now, prior to Risk Legacy coming out, I used to play a game with my family called Risk 2210 AD or something.
Yeah, that was actually on the list.
Yeah, 2210 AD, and I actually remember quite fondly liking that because what it did is it didn't make it so you had to completely destroy the world. You had certain amounts of objectives, and you could get those objectives by like putting out planets or putting out stations on parts of it, settling in different areas. There's multiple planets or moons that you can settle to. You were gaining special abilities. There was a lot of cool ideas, and I think Rob Daviau had a hand in developing that, and it turned Risk from a pretty fun, but not great, overly long game to something that was concise, played in less than an hour, and had really good, meaningful choice to it. So then he ramped it to 11.
Yep.
And added the whole legacy idea behind it.
Now we're not completely done with this, but
no, we're not. But the fact is that he invented legacy with this game.
Mm-hmm.
This was the one. It wasn't the biggest one. Pandemic Legacy was bigger. But
this is the granddaddy of legacy games.
Yes.
We wouldn't have Pandemic Legacy or a lot of the campaign style games either if it wasn't for the success of Risk Legacy. Yeah.
Now you and I have played a few scenarios in it with a friend of ours, and every single time we've played it, we've had a blast.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
It's just silly. It's over the top. It's on purpose. You're destroying parts of the board. You're adding stickers. You're getting super abilities. It's turning asymmetric. It's genuinely fun.
My favorite memory of this is there's like something in there, and it's just a slight spoiler where it's like push the nuke button or something like that. We're egging our friend to do it just to see what would happen.
And we don't know what would happen.
Yeah.
And there's something crazy. And there's even there's little Easter eggs hidden throughout the thing, which I'll let you discover.
Yeah.
This has a lot of cool things going for it. And don't get me wrong, I did enjoy my time playing Kemet. I did, and I told you guys, I was like, wow, that's a war game, or that's a area control game that I actually kind of enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would play that again. But Risk Legacy, I want to play again. Like, if you guys picked Kemet, we're specifically talking like
Blood and Sand. That's the most recent one. That's the one you can get. That's the one we've played.
Yeah.
It's just that the way we do things, if there's two games of the same,
we pick the highest.
We pick the highest one of the thing.
Yeah.
And also, basically, Kemet Blood and Sand is like the 2.0 version of Kemet.
Right.
There's some slight role changes and added expansions into the base game.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the difference between the two.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a game that if you guys brought over, I would gladly play again. Risk Legacy, I want to finish this campaign. That's sitting right up there. My box.
Yeah. You got two boxes up there.
I have two.
It's just that we played those games here, so that's why you left them here, so you don't have to lug them back and forth.
And they've been there for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I want to play more, and still to this day, it's a positive memory. So, that being said, feel free to argue your side.
Alright, so Kemet, hands down, especially the Blood and Sand version, one of the best produced games out there. This is pretty. Matago did a spectacular job with this one. No, it's no more complicated than Risk Legacy. I think Risk Legacy is just slightly easier because a lot of people are very familiar with how Risk plays.
Yeah, roll dice, compare the results.
I know there's a lot meaningful choices in Kemet because, again, as someone mentioned earlier in there, you can't turtle. This is one of the things where they did fix that turtling rule or thing that a lot of people do in like these dudes on the map games, where they build up their armies in a little section over here. Because this one, you have to specifically get control of certain areas because you need to get a certain amount of victory points. And if you're just staying your little corner of things, you're not accruing those victory points as fast as possible. Right. You could sacrifice them to the crocodile god. You can go and claim things, which allows you to get more people on the map. If you get a certain amount of people, you can claim a scythe, like a victory point of some sort. Then you have, and it's like the first person to, I think it's like 10 victory points or something like that.
To that effect.
And then, but you have...
Which is also true for Risk.
Yeah, but it's also, you have permanent victory points. Once you gain them, they're yours. But there's also victory points that can be stolen from you, and they go to another player because they then succeeded and surpassed you in certain aspects of it. I love that aspect of it where it blocks the turtle. I prefer Ankh over Kemet. Actually, I prefer Kemet over Ankh. And it's just for the simple fact that I love the aspect, the way Kemet protects you from getting one of those players that build up their army and stick in their thing and just start accruing their points. Basically, turtle. The Australia in Risk, that's the best way to describe it. The Australia...
Yep.
What is it? The Australia... I can't think of the term, but
yeah.
But it's strategy. There you go. The Australia strategy, where they sit in Australia and they just build their army and then they start sweeping.
Right.
Basically, the Mongol horde aspect after they build everything up. This one, Kimmit, you can't do that because you're not getting the points fast enough.
Yeah.
I actually read into it and saw that people were saying you can't do it. So I tried to do it, and it's true. You can't.
No.
It's so hard. Like halfway through the game, I had to pivot because I wasn't getting those victory points, and you guys were starting to run away from me.
That's right.
But yeah, so ease of play, replay value. Kimmit gets the replay value sort of, and it's just with the expandability. Because minimum number of full play experience. Honestly, I don't know if I could give it replay value either because it's a really long game if you play with more people.
Right, yeah. I mean, the scaling isn't great. But minimum number of plays, I mean, that goes to Risk Legacy.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's going to go there, but I'm just going with, like, the expandability aspect of it.
No,
Both are...
I mean, Risk Legacy is so much faster than regular Risk. I mean, we got to take that out of the equation, right? We were playing games in less than an hour.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, like, Kimmit could win the scaling well, but it's just... not so much, because Risk plays really good at 3.
Right. I mean, meaningful choice we give to Kimmit.
Kimmit, yes. There you have
but
to
game immersion is Risk Legacy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Art and production's Kimmit as well, so...
Kimmit.
Ease of play is really where we have to go.
That's right, and Risk is easier to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Risk Legacy, moving on.
Risk Legacy, there we go.
That goes here. Ooh, that sets up a really good matchup in the next round.
Yes, it does. And our final round of the quarterfinals is going to be Star Wars X-Wing versus Game of Thrones 2nd Edition, the board game. And I'll be starting us off. I'm excited for this one, actually, quite a bit, because I both really like both these games.
I'm okay with both. You get Star Wars X-Wing.
Okay. So Star Wars X-Wing, I mean, as I agree, it's not technically a war game, right? It's a miniature skirmish game. But we're being pedantic. Let's be real. It's a war game.
You're being pedantic.
Well, true. But I can understand why people don't claim it as a traditional war game, but it is 100% a war game. You're using rulers, you're using pieces to move around, you're using maneuvering tactics, you're fighting each other. This feels like a Star Wars style dogfight. It really does.
It really does, yeah.
I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I'm not the biggest war game fan. I liked it when I used to own this. And I played it quite a bit. I just didn't end up stop playing and nobody played it with me anymore. So I sold it.
Yeah.
Oh well. But there's a reason I used to own it. And it's because I genuinely enjoyed the battle fight that it did. This was 100% tactical based. The way that you maneuver your stuff into position to fight with each other, the way that you were aiming to beat each other up. I normally don't like dice rolling in a game like this, but the dice that you roll on these in this game really does feel like you're going pew pew off in the distance trying to get this guy, and it's 100% like you're just like trying to keep him in your line, and the number of hits is just all your lucky shots that did hit him.
Yes.
You know, like it. That's one of those few things where it's like that kind of justifies the random in it, and I think it works really well. I agree with Luminous. Yep, the minis are really, really cool. To the point where they were selling minis for this game that were like, $80, like for retail cost.
The thing is, they were pre-painted too.
Yeah,
so
pre-painted. Fantasy Flight did a great thing, and they're still mostly supporting it. I mean, kinda.
Didn't they give it to who's the company?
There's another company that is supporting it, but it's still in production to this day.
Yeah.
And that's
And they
great.
came up with a second
Armada.
edition. They also set up like second edition rules that you could take over your old stuff from the first edition over to second
so they're
edition.
still supporting all the people who play competitively.
So Armada, I like Armada for the aspect that it's not the dogfight anymore. It's the space battle. So you have the big ships. But if I'm going to pick between the two, I'm going to pick X-Wing.
Yeah, same here. But that's my argument.
All right, so this game next. It's funny because you had Star Wars X-Wing. I had Game of Thrones Second Edition, and I sold that copy.
I sold Game of Thrones as well.
Yeah, so I ended up selling it, but it's just because it never got played. It's the big knock.
I owned mine for 4 years, and it played once.
I played mine twice, and it was one of the first games we ever had. Yeah.
Yep.
It actually got played 3 times because I lent it to your replacement to teach at the shop.
That's right.
When you had to move up to Albuquerque for all of a year.
That's right.
But Game of Thrones
Speaking of dogfight.
Second Edition. If you want a game that gives you that Game of Thrones feel,
Yes.
don't deal with the LCG. Don't deal with the what is it, the
Iron Throne?
not the Iron Throne, the one that's the Cosmic Encounter replacement.
Yeah,
that's Iron Throne.
Yeah. Which that
gives
does
you,
feel like it.
It does give you a little bit of feel.
Yeah.
Nowhere near the way this game gives
Right.
it. Because it's diplomacy, like we were talking about with Rising Sun. You're willing and dealing and making deals with other players in the game and breaking them left and right, stabbing people in the back.
Yep.
You got to make sure the wall's taken care of. This one actually is more based off the books than it is the actual TV series.
Well, this was created before.
Because in the second
TV
edition
series.
got re-updated because of the TV show.
No, I think second edition came out still before.
It did,
the
but they had announced the
TV
TV show, so they knew it was going to become popular again.
I see.
But it is phenomenal. It is a war game because you are fighting with the different
Yes.
houses for control of certain areas. You're trying to keep that control because you're feeding your supply lines by having those controls, and if you lose that production line, you start losing troops, and so you have to pull back to certain points. You're making deals with a smaller army or a larger army. This way you don't get integrated into their army. But this game is so long. I thought Twilight Imperium was long.
Yes.
This one feels long. Twilight Imperium didn't feel long at all. Because when it goes to, like, when we're talking about the AP making an impact on the game, if you got a player who's very prone to analysis paralysis, it's going to grind the game to a halt.
It will. Yep.
But I love this game. I actually prefer this game over X-Wing, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan.
I know you are. No, and I really did enjoy owning this one too. The one time I played it, I loved every minute of it.
Oh,
but
it's
again,
so
it
much
took like
fun.
nearly 4 hours
Yeah.
minimum.
The thing about Fantasy Flight, they don't care about time. Eldritch
That's
Horror,
true. You're having
3-player game. It's an hour per player, basically. Eldritch Horror.
Pretty much.
Arkham Horror, same difference. This one, 3-player, 4-player game. This one's 3 minimum, if I remember correctly.
I think so. Yeah.
That's another reason why it was hard to get to the table, because it is 3 minimum, and there's not a lot of times where I want to play this at 3 players, let alone 6.
No. You want it to feel like it's a big, epic, sprawling, massive thing. I mean, what they basically did with Game of Thrones, the board game, is that they took Diplomacy, the game, and revamped it to the Game of Thrones universe, but then really refined it. And what they did to it really does feel like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, you do.
It is 100% that feeling.
So
with
which
that
one's
being
easier
said,
to play? X-Wing.
X-Wing, by far.
A replay value, X-Wing.
Yes, because of all the different models and different ways you can
Meaningful choice for me is Game of Thrones.
Absolutely, yep.
Game immersion. Now, here's the tough part here. Art and production, X-Wing's moving on because art and production, Game of Thrones is not going to compete with that.
No.
But when
They're
it
both
comes,
Fantasy Flight.
Yeah.
Those pre-painted minis are just fantastic.
Fantastic, yeah. The game immersion, though, I as much as I love X-Wing, and it does make you feel like you're dogfighting, this really made me feel like I was in the world.
In all aspects of the world. Yes,
Yeah.
I completely agree.
But with that being said, Star Wars X-Wing does move on.
All right. Which brings us to our semifinals. But before we do that, Daniel, tell them how many votes, or what percentage of our votes from the audience did our 4 eliminated games get?
Alright, so just get me do some stats real quick. Because I have to find it. Okay, there it is. Alright, so in last place was our 6th seed, Risk Legacy, that had no love, 0% of the vote. And mind you, there has been a lot of votes. I just checked it earlier. I think we had, 100.
Wait, Risk Legacy moved on.
Oh, Risk Legacy moved on? Okay.
Star
it was
Wars
Kemet that, that was Kemet that did not go on.
Right.
Alright, so Kemet actually had 8% of the vote. I'm still sad Risk Legacy has nothing, huh?
Yep. Spoilers! We weren't supposed to reveal that yet.
Yeah.
That's
my
right.
bad. So you have Risk Star Wars Edition has 1% of the vote. Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea and Game of Thrones 2nd Edition both had 5% of the vote.
Yep. So you can see where the love is going on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well. All right. On to our semifinals. We have Twilight Struggle versus Risk Legacy, which is really hurts me to debate.
Yeah, this one's rough.
I don't know how I'm going to debate either side. I'm going to do my best because I love both of them. And let's find out which one we argue first. Daniel, you're starting us off.
Alright, let's see. I am getting Twilight Struggle. Ah, man, this one's tough. This is because both of these games are really, really good. And along the lines too, it's like one is very historical, and one is just fun.
Which you love your history.
I love my
history.
history.
Podcast. Hey,
how's it going, Corrupt? So for me, the thing I think Twilight Struggle should move on because it has so much going for it. It's got the historical aspect of the actual Cold War, how you're trying to influence the world to gain control. The little tug of war aspect where the Russians are on top and then the Americans are on top and the Russians back on top. The tactical card play to gain control of certain areas and then score those certain areas because you have control of it. My favorite aspect of Twilight Struggle is when I snuck in and took control of Asia from you. You're like, wait, when did you get into Japan? What is going on here? Because you were so busy focusing on Europe that I was able to get in there, and I had the Asian scorecard, so I kept popping it every single time I could to get my PowerPoints up. Mm-hmm. How you're like, I don't want to use this card because it's going to do something really, really good for me, but it's your specific card, or you're forced to actually play the other opponent's card because that's all that's in your hand.
Yep.
There's a lot of luck aspect to this game, but it is such a phenomenal game that it really does give you that tactical, I am the Russian Federation, the USSR, and I'm trying to make sure I kill these capitalists. So you're really getting in that aspect. You get that feel of the Cold War era.
That's right.
But Risk Legacy is just, I love that game too.
So this is an interesting one for me to debate. Like I said, I like both of them quite a bit. I was very impressed with Twilight Struggle, and I went into it not knowing what to expect. I got into Risk Legacy long after playing other Legacy games and knowing that I wanted to play more. So they both have a soft spot right here. But there's one category that I'm really not sure which I lean towards.
Meaningful choice?
No. Meaningful choice, I do think very handily Twilight Struggle.
Okay.
Yes, there is a random of the card pulls, but that's versus dice, like...
Oh, and it's it's random of the card pull, but it's also more along the lines to how you play that efficiently.
Right, yeah, exactly. There's a lot more choice to it. And replay value, I'm not total... I mean, it's definitely Risk Legacy.
Yeah, campaign.
Because it can scale well and all that stuff. Easy play,
you
also
can play
Risk
with
Legacy.
more player, yeah.
The one that I struggle with is game immersion. Because they're both fun to lose, no matter what.
Yeah.
They both have a lot of player interaction. Like, they both have very memorable moments. I think memorable moments might be edged out a little bit because of the Legacy stuff that we haven't quite experienced yet. That I know, because we've already had a few of those where we're like, wow, those are big stand-up moments. But the
fact that Twilight Struggle was in the one turn you would have won. I ended it on the turn before you would have won the game.
Exactly.
That is such a moment.
I have to call it a wash in my mind, but then Art and Production is Risk Legacy, so which sets it apart.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my argument. I think Risk Legacy should move on, but just because of those other options. I mean, yeah.
The only reason I give Risk Legacy ease of play, because they're both not very easy. It's the familiarity of the game itself.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's
a very familiar system.
There is some aspects of Twilight Struggle that where the rules are kind of finicky. Like we're like, okay, how does the rounds work? Okay, how do we do this?
There's certain times where you have to add when you control the area, it's a 1-per-1 unit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're fighting against somebody who doesn't control the area, it's half of that. It's a 1-to-2. Yeah, it's there's some fiddliness with it, right?
Yes.
But that doesn't take anything out of the game. It's once you know those rules, it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty straightforward.
But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and move on. Risk Legacy, I agree with you, even though I don't like it. I prefer, as much as I love these games, honestly, I wouldn't say I prefer Twilight Struggle over Risk Legacy because I really do like these games. If you said, hey, let's play this or this, I would have a hard time deciding which game to play. With some of these other games is like, if you want to play this or this, which one would you pick? No, I pick that one hands down. This one is like, what am I in the mood for?
Right.
How many are there? Is there 3 of us? Okay, we can't play Twilight Struggle. If there's just the 2 of us,
yeah, probably. Yeah, there's 2-player legacy games. It'd probably be fine, but it probably wouldn't be amazing.
But yeah, Risk Legacy moving on. So our next one is...
We're going to anger some people in the audience. There we are. Yeah. Send your hate mail to Daniel at everydayboardgames.com.
Oh, it's already...
Our next one is going to be Rising Sun versus Star Wars X-Wing. You'll be starting us off.
And I get, apparently, Star Wars, both of them. Star Wars X-Wing, because that was on top.
Okay, sounds good. Rising Sun X-Wing, Star Wars edition.
So then, I have to argue Star Wars X-Wing. I will say this about this game: when it came out, it blew my mind. It just was spectacular because it's like it really did feel like I was dogfighting in the Star Wars game. If I was playing the Empire side, I was driving those TIE fighters and I wanted to take down that Millennium Falcon. And so it has got that aspect of it. But on the same lines of when it comes to Fantasy Flight games, it got super bloated super quick.
Right.
They got.
You can't say they don't support their games, right? They do. For a while.
The big thing of what I liked about this game is that it did give you that feel. Though it is very, very lucky. There's some meaningful choice in this game, but you're beholden to the dice roll to determine if you hit your shot or if you played your card right and made your turn properly. I do like that aspect where you have like the little rulers to tell you how your flight is in this way. Okay, now I'm behind you, or I did a loop around you, so now I'm behind you again.
Yeah.
I loved a lot of that aspect of it, but if I had to choose between these two, honestly, even though I gotta argue for Star Wars X-Wing, I don't feel like it's moving on because the really big thing about it really is the minis, for me.
Yeah.
To you?
All right, Rising Sun. Dude's on a map, but it's very much negotiation on top of area control. Less of a war game, which I feel is a big knock to it. Especially when we're arguing this category. It's hard to justify it being in here as much as X-Wing definitely has the right to be.
I agree with you, Luminous, but pre-painted minis versus plastic, no, not even a wash mini.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the minis are great in Rising Sun, but they're not painted. They're not pre-painted. They're not like varnished. They didn't have that presentation where they could have a mini behind a clear piece of plastic at the store and go, okay, I suddenly want that now.
Yeah.
Like,
that really looks like the Millennium Falcon.
Right. Yeah, and it can't be solved easily by painting it, but I can't.
I don't have the time for that or the actual skill for it. I don't have a steady hand.
Yeah, exactly. So or you could pay somebody to do it, but again, I'm paying Fantasy Flight to do that.
Yeah.
So, no, as far as art and production, I think it irks out a little bit just because Fantasy Flight really does know how to do that.
Yeah.
That is not to say that Rising Sun doesn't, or CMON doesn't know how to do that. They've solved pretty much everything else, but this really encompassed exactly what it needed to be. But with that being said, though, I'm arguing for Rising Sun. The level of player interaction in this was interesting. When I played it, there was a lot of choice, there was a lot of strategy, there was a lot of depth to my decisions when I was playing, until there wasn't. And then there was times where you would just be like, okay, well, I guess I'll do this, since we're partnered up anyway. Yeah, that's cool. Like, you're going to do that? Okay, cool. Yeah, it's like, all right. And it's like, well, I know this bond is going to be broken anyway. It's like, it makes sense.
Is this the time for me to do it?
Yeah, it's the time. It's like, should I do it? You want to? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead. That's fine. Yeah, like, I don't know. It was cool, and I did like all the special abilities and stuff, but there's something about the way that X-Wing felt that just, I would want to get it to the table more. That there's a reason this was ever in my collection. So I think we need to break it down. Just for all fairness.
Oh, no, when you're saying to the table more, I'd get Rising Sun over more than X-Wing.
Yeah. No, I know. This is my personal opinion. I think I would get to the table.
X-Wing's easier to play.
X-Wing is easier to play. Yeah, I agree.
Replay value. This is, when it comes to the expandability, both of them have a lot of expandability. The only thing I say Rising Sun gets it is because it's more unique. There's only so many times you can play a different type of X-wing ship. There's only so much you could do with the Y-wings. Then you have like your special versions of the Y-wing or the X-wing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you did have some
You had
scenarios,
some good ones, yeah.
but more so it was in Armada when it came across like different scenario based. So I'll give it that. Replay value can go to a Rising Sun. Meaningful choice, that was Rising Sun.
Rising Sun.
That's not even arguing. Immersion though, I definitely felt that immersion with Star Wars.
Yeah, I give you that. I mean, I feel it more than I do in Rising Sun. I'll admit that because I did get into that role playing. I am the Empire. I'm doing this.
Yeah, and not to say that Rising Sun is unthematic, but I didn't feel like I was legitimately fighting feudal Japan. I just felt like I was like, I'm putting my yin to your yang. That's all
you're
I'm
fighting
doing.
in
feudal China.
Fantasy feudal Japan.
Yeah, fantasy feudal Japan. And it's like, I don't know. I didn't get much from that personally.
So here's the trick with the art and production: the pieces and components. The
X-wing.
Here's the problem: it's the pieces in the components.
Yeah.
The minis are really nice, but the actual coins and stuff like that, the tiles in Rising Sun that you're bidding on, those are really, really good. For me, right there, that's a wash because yes, they beat you on the mini part of it, hands down. All the other components in Rising Sun destroy the components.
Well,
because you got those flimsy cardboard rulers.
No, those are very thick rulers. I think those are fine. The dice are fine for what they need to do. The tokens are a little weird. The cards were really good and the dials were good. What set it apart...
are the cards in Rising Sun.
Yeah. One of the things I think also sets it apart that I think is really neat, though, is that multiple places started selling 3 foot by 3 foot, like, different themed Star Wars mats that would act as essentially the backdrop.
Well, if you want to go that fact, I have the Rising Sun playmat.
Sure, but it's just a playmat version of the board. This didn't. I mean, you could play without a board at all, but the fact that you could add that extra layer of thing. I'm not disagreeing that I think it should be a wash on that part, but
you're arguing. I'm like, I have the playmat, so it's the same difference.
Exactly. Like a superfluous add-on just so they can add flavor. It's like, oh, we're gonna be right outside of Tatooine. You know, here's Tatooine off in the distance. We could see it. We're flying over this distance. You can
there you go. Why can't you just project a background down?
Instead of getting a new playmat? No, I don't disagree. This is price aside, but I'm saying that was legitimately an oftenly used thing, especially in tournaments.
I do like the graphic design more in Rising Sun. It's easy to read, easy to see.
Yeah, to an extent.
There's not much graphic design other than the cards.
Right, but that can't be a knock to it. Just because
I'm not saying, but I'm just
saying
saying the one that is better is Rising Sun. The other thing is the art. My issue with the art in X-Wing, it's so close to screen capture. Close. It is art itself, but it's so close to screen capture.
Some would call that talented.
No, that's someone would call that tracing.
Hey,
DQ plays. Yes, like Arc Nova.
You know, for the art alone, I will give that to Rising Sun. I think art and production needs that Rising Sun, which means I lost count of what which roads that we had.
Okay, so this was Star Wars.
Okay.
This was Rising Sun.
Play. So Rising Sun. Okay.
That was Rising Sun. That was Star Wars. This is Rising Sun.
3-2. Rising Sun moves on. All right, the Battle of the R's. This will be Rising Sun versus Risk Legacy for the best war game. I can't believe I'm saying that.
All right, so our eliminateds here. Twilight Struggle was our leading vote getter at 13%. Star Wars X-Wing, 3%.
I'm so sorry. Anybody who's legitimately a war gamer listening to this. And Illuminous, I don't disagree, but there is one game where stock photos are just absolutely on point, and that is Earth. I highly recommend Earth.
I still need to get my copy. Game Steward just like, hey, we know, we haven't sent it out, we haven't received the copies yet.
We'll get there.
Don't yell at us. Like, I guess they're getting like a bunch of emails getting yelled at us.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
I'm like, it still hasn't gotten to the stores yet. No. But wow, we have an interesting championship, huh?
That's right.
And as I mentioned, I already did the percentages, so let's go into this.
All right, and in this last round, we do not take sides. We do not have to argue each side. We're going to argue the points that are there. But I would like to make a comment first off.
Okay.
Risk Legacy is 100%.
It is a war
It
game.
is the before, the during, and the after of a war with the world set as its setting.
Okay, so
as a theme.
We're in an agreement. Game immersion for
game immersion. Risk Legacy, hands down.
I do not argue that point because it gives you that feel. Art production though is Rising Sun.
Yes, I agree with that. Okay. Replay value, I would give that to Risk Legacy
just because it is a campaign. So
yep, exactly.
By the way, I'm actually reading the Rising Sun comic our buddy lent us. I finished the Cthulhu Death May Die. That was really good.
Oh,
this one so far not bad.
Oh, that's interesting.
So replay value.
Let me know when you read the Risk Legacy comic. Oh,
I'm surprised Hasbro hasn't done it.
And now we have a debate going off in our chat. We have Luminous saying darn Ameritrash, ABQ saying Ameritrash for life. I love this. Use our criteria to duke it out. Do it. Alright, so game immersion, meaningful choice. That's a tough certainly one. Be no that is Rising Sun.
Yeah, because you're beholden to the dice.
It is 100% Rising Sun. There is less choice. There are more tactics in Risk Legacy to an extent, but really, I mean, there's times where you just might get screwed over.
Alright, so I have it written down. It's 2-2.
Yep, and what is our final category?
Ease of play. Risk.
Risk? That's not even close. Risk Legacy. Even though the legacy aspect of it only comes into play later on, which means Risk Legacy just
is the best war game.
Oh my goodness.
At least it was a risk of some sort.
No tiebreaker? No. Well, let's talk about the votes. You're hurting. I'm sorry.
Rising Sun. Well, we already know Risk Legacy's votes. It's 0%.
0% of the votes.
Rising Sun was it was the 2 seed, so it's way up here. It only had 6%, so there's only a 6% difference between the two. It's less than 10.
You know, this is the episode where everyone's just like, you know what? I quit.
Luminous, I'm cringing. I don't blame you, Luminous. Though I do love both of these games. Risk Legacy is more of a war game than a Dudes on the Map game. Right.
And now, realistically, what I think, if this was a much larger debate and more people were debating it, Twilight Struggle would be the pick out of all these. And there's a reason it's the highest ranked one out of these.
What's funny is this is one of our highest vote gets, too. It had 131 votes.
Yeah, that's right, because people understand war games. Oh, that hurts. But no, this has been a silly episode. We're going to stick around after the episode's done, but we're going to do a send-off right now. That was a fun one. We want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you ever want to join us, like our friends ABQ Plays, Illuminous, or Corrupt Senate, join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames. And make sure you subscribe to that channel to be notified every time we do a live episode and join in on the conversation. Boy, is it a blast.
All video re-uploads can be found on YouTube at youtube.com/everydayboardgamespodcast. And if you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on the platform. Subscribe if you're not, like the video, and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject. As well as all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, and Podbean.
And if you want to email us directly, you can email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. And you can email us whether you want to give us ideas for future episodes, just to say hello, or possibly enter in future contests or events that we have later on. Or if you want to send us hate mail, send it to Daniel@everydayboardgames.com. And with that being said, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you for joining us on this wonderful episode of totally unbiased, like the best decisions in wargamings. Anyway, have a great one. We want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.